Well, let's bring in someone who's well connected. A man who joins the show. He's a good friend of mine, good friend of ours. That's Mr. Kory Woods. Kory!
Let's
Covers
go.
the Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Lions for M Live. And he is here
What's going on?
to give some insight to this golf contract. Kory, I need your thoughts. I know you probably put them to not literal paper, but on M Live. People can read it, check it out. Links will be in the description. But what was your initial reaction? I feel like when contracts get signed, you're on the show. Like, I don't know, it's just how it happens. What'd you think of the Goff deal? I know the details aren't out, but what does this mean for the Lions going forward?
First off, I thought it was a smart deal. It was brilliant to go ahead and get it done. I thought they would have gotten it done a lot sooner, but once we saw, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more, once we saw Kirk Cousins get his deal with the Atlanta Falcons, I'm like, okay, I don't see the Lions making it to training camp, and Goff does not have a deal because that number is only going to go up the more they continue to win moving forward. So I figured that this was going to be a deal they got done before the season, and rightfully so, because Jared Goff has earned it. Whether you love him, like him, love him or hate him, he earned the money. I mean, you gotta, and then you guys said something very interesting when you were talking about his last couple of years in Los Angeles not being so pleasant. Not only was Jared Goff banged up, but so were a lot of the players there. And the one thing that I also remember about Jared Goff's exit is Jared Goff won a playoff game with damn near a broken thumb.
Yep.
So that we have to keep that into perspective as well. People like to have this, and I'm not saying people, not saying you guys, it's just this whole social media world. Well, things have to be perfect for Jared Goff to win. This has to go right. This has to go right. You can say that just about 23 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Right.
There's only a handful of quarterbacks where if things go wrong, they can go out there themselves and win you a game. A Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. If you want to throw Josh Allen or Justin Herbert in there, cool. CJ Stroud, it's only his first year last year. We're seeing the talent, though, of what he could possibly do. There is not that many quarterbacks out there you can just say go win a game with everything going wrong. So I don't understand. I never understood that mindset of things have to go right for Jared Goff. What sense does that make? Like, if you have a good quarterback, you want to surround him with talent so that he can be successful. That's the point. So I just never understood that. But here's what Jared Goff did with those things that Brad Holmes and company surrounded him with. Last season, he was second in passing yards, fourth in touchdowns, the 12 interceptions. It's not offensive. I do know the stretch he went through. He was not, from sources I heard, he was not feeling that well. Hence the alarming number of turnovers. But over those past 7 games, the last 7 games, that was 14 touchdowns to 4 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't throw a pick in the postseason. 69% of his passes completed in the postseason. This guy won 2 home playoff games, something many have not seen in their entire lifetime. Got this franchise to the second NFC championship game. If things would have went their way, maybe some passes would have been caught, maybe a couple of stops. You're looking at the first Super Bowl run. Jared Goff did what you're supposed to do. Now you lock that guy up. You have a guy who not only performed, but he has the offense believing in him as well. You've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown lead a Jared Goff chant with over 200 and some odd thousand people on day one chanting this guy's name. What in the world are you going to get? Why would you not lock that up? I'm just saying, make it make sense, people. I know I'm rambling, but I really wanted to talk about this because I just see some of the stuff and it's mind-boggling. Like, well, we never get to see what Hendon Hooker is going to look like. The unknown is always sexy because it's unknown, but it's like, you ever know, like, I want to go get the hot girl. Then you get the hot girl and you're like, hey, she ain't really that hot.
Kind of stinks a little bit.
No disrespect to Hendon Hooker, but if you have a guy here is doing the job and doing what you want, why are you so fantasized about the unknown? Look, maybe everything Jared Goff doesn't look as a quarterback doesn't look as sexy as Lamar Jackson does or Patrick Mahomes does, but the numbers prove that it's effective, and the fact that the Lions were 2 quarters away from their first ever Super Bowl appearance proves that it's effective. So I'll let you guys. I'm off my little high horse for that for a quick second, but getting the deal done was just a no-brainer, and the money isn't offensive.
Look at that!
I love it,
man. Kory spitting, and
Yeah.
like we always say on the show, man, football's a team game until it isn't. I mean, until it doesn't fit your narrative specifically. Go ahead, Boone.
Yeah, Kory. So, me and you, we're lockstep with this whole golf day. There's so many people that are just slandering and going at the numbers, and even before, like, oh, wait till next year. I want to ask you this with Brad Holmes, because you're in the building a lot, especially around Brad. Do you kind of feel like now with Brad Holmes, he's signed? It feels like these building block and like foundation pieces, these three big names here that with Amon-Ra, Panay, and Goff. Does it feel like now it's like, all right, Brad, you got those guys done. The pressure's off. Now it's like let's go build a football team and win a Super Bowl. Like, we've gotten our core foundation outside of maybe Hutch. We've got those guys locked in for long term now. Now we can just focus on building. We don't have to worry about maybe like at this point, like the fans and the Hendon Hooker talk. We don't have to worry about anything besides just putting guys around this foundation and going to win a Super Bowl. Do you think that pressure's like now off him and now he's just like, let's go?
Absolutely, because I mean, really, the only deal you would probably I would have to say concern yourself with in the near distant future would be a Liam McNeil, but that's you could get creative with that in a couple of different ways. But absolutely, you have the foundation core of you got your quarterback, you got your generational lineman, and you got arguably the hardest worker on the team, and I guess you could say an unofficial mascot, because a lot of people love St. Brown's and not his swagger, but his overall mentality. And everybody else is just either young players on short deals, rookie deals, or veterans on very team-friendly deals. So this is right now a perfect situation for the Lions to capitalize on this window, and they don't really have to worry about anything. It's really a dream scenario for them.
Did you say it's Super Bowl? Is that what we're looking at now? Super Bowl.
I think at least after hitting the NFC Championship game, I'm going to just say this: you at least have to get back to that point. Then, because getting to the Super Bowl it has to be a goal. Obviously, it has to be a goal. I mean, I don't think these guys are putting their lives on the line to just get to the playoffs.
Let's get to the first round.
But yeah. So getting to the Super Bowl has to be a goal. But I think that getting back to that title game to right that wrong, that's going to be their first goal. Because I mean, if you get back to that title game, then you have a chance to compete for the Super Bowl. So I think their goal is getting back to the NFC Championship first.
Yeah, Kory, and you were just spitting. You were spitting about Jared and his production last year. How confident after signing this contract do you think you are that Jared can continue this play for the rest of that contract that he just signed?
I think as long as they keep those pieces around him and he stays healthy, I think he'll be able to play it out. I mean, we also got to think about this. Jared Goff is going to be just now turning 30 this fall. So he's not he's not that old by the quarterback years of what we've been seeing these guys playing right now. So I think as long as they keep him healthy and they keep some solid pieces around him, he'll be fine. And I'm not really worried about the whole, what if Ben Johnson leaves? I think Ben Johnson was just as good to Jared Goff as Jared Goff has been good to Ben Johnson. I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship, because before Ben Johnson came along, he was a rather unknown to a lot of people, and people were still wondering, well, why is this whole thing about Ben Johnson becoming the OC such a big deal? Then he becomes the OC. Oh, it's the greatest thing ever. So, I love how fans kind of get revisionist history with that kind of stuff. But I think it's good.
Yeah, and that is an interesting point you made there about Ben. I think that's like the last really part of this team where you kind of are expecting him to leave. The rest of it's there's continuity, and that now moving forward, which is the most important. You have those two rookies, or multiple rookies, but two rookie corners they drafted. I know they had mini camp. What are your thoughts on kind of Terrion Arnold as the pick? I know we talked to you, but now that he's officially a Lion and he's out there, he's playing. We'll see more of it in training camp. What are your thoughts on not only just Terrion, but also Ennis Rakestraw, the two rookie corners kind of hanging in? And what are some expectations for you moving forward for these guys?
First off, I got to give it to Brad. He's shown a tendency that if he wants somebody, he's going to go up and go get them. The fact that they didn't just stand pat when they could have, and they went up and go get Terrion Arnold, that shows you what they think about him as a playmaker and as a contributor to this defense. And then to go back again and get Ennis Rakestraw, to me, that showed a commitment that, look, we know what our secondary was last year. It was not great. we are going to overhaul that, and that is not going to be our Achilles heel going into this season. So A+ job to them, because they did it in two different ways. They did it through free agency by getting Carlton Davis and Robertson, and they brought back Mosley. Hopefully he'll be able to be healthy and be a contributor this season, because last season was just, it just went bad for him. It was horrible. And then you go on ahead and get these two dogs out of college that already have a chip on their shoulder, especially Rakestraw. So what more can you say? They've addressed their weaknesses. That's what teams are supposed to do in the offseason, and they did it in a very solid fashion that is not offensive. You got to give him an A.
Do you think, Kory, real quick, just to follow up, do you think Ennis Rakestraw this year, I know he played a little bit in the slot. When we first saw, obviously, back-to-back corners, and we found out that Ennis Rakestraw was his number 2 corner behind Terron, number 1 corner, only Brad would be like, yeah, our secondary is not great. I'll just go ahead and get my number 1 and number 2 corner. No big deal. What do you think about Ennis this year? Because at first I'm like, maybe he won't play as much this year, but now they got him playing in the slot. Like, is there a chance there you think that you'll see both rookies potentially out there this year, or you think the expectations with being a Super Bowl contender, maybe they'll ease these guys in compared to prior draft classes?
One thing that we've seen from Dan and company is that if there's not a need to rush a guy in, they'll ease him along. Now, obviously, things such as injuries can change that, and the Lions had a lot of injuries to their secondary last season. So if there are injuries, this guy is probably going to come out there. But I think with Rakestraw, I think it's a possibility that we'll see him in certain packages, but I could see them treading him along maybe for the first year. But I mean, again, there's training camp coming up. So if this guy beat somebody out in training camp or a couple people out, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I like Brian Branch did it. I keep using that example. Brian Branch did it with CJ last year. Another question with we're talking kind of rookies here, but just kind of adding to the team. Brad spoke on 97.1 about like the wide receiver situation and about potentially, hey, in free agency, if there's still guys out there come training camp, like we can go out there and still go get guys. And even for me, like even if you look at the safety room with CJ leaving and Tracy leaving, there's still like some room there. And they do have $23 million, it looks like, left in cap. And everyone's saying with the Goff contract, there's going to add some more potentially. Do you think, Brad, did you get like the feeling that maybe Brad wants to make some more moves and bring a couple guys in? Because there are some big names still out there. Do you see him kind of doing that?
I think Brad always keeps his ear to the ground, or ear out there just to see what is going on. And it's possible, things happen in training camp. So, guys go down. And I can see them probably maybe bringing somebody in. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when they brought in Devin Funchess, I believe that was right before training camp popped off, if I'm not mistaken. So if there's a guy out there that they want to give a chance to, they'll probably bring him in. But also, too, they don't necessarily need to add anybody. I think bringing back Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to actually be a sleeper move, because with all due respect, this is really going to be the fact that he's going to have this whole offseason with the Lions to be able to train and practice with Goff. This is really the best quarterback DPJ has had since probably high school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had Baker and he did decent that year, but I mean, Baker, Goff, come on. I mean, I think let's just be real about it. So I'm curious to see what he can do. I think he could probably step up and be that third wide receiver role. I mean, obviously we'll got to see what happens with Khalif Raymond and how healthy he comes back. But I think the Lions they're pretty solid at wide receiver. But again, if they see there's a guy they believe can help them, best believe that Brad is looking. He's always looking. And I think the one thing that fans have to realize is that just because the Lions don't sign somebody or don't trade for somebody doesn't mean that they were asleep at the wheel. It just means that they have a different thought process than most may have.
Yeah.
Kory, staying on the offensive side of the ball, this is a debate we get into pretty frequently on the show. Jahmyr Gibbs obviously was a stud last year, but what do you expect from him production-wise in year 2, when I think he's going to be the focal point of this offense, but obviously David Montgomery's there. So how do you think that kind of balances out this year?
That is a really great question, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no answers for that right now because Jahmyr Gibbs is, from what we see from him year one, and again, that was a guy that the Lions took high. They went up, took high, and they brought him along a lot slower than some people thought. And then towards the end of the year, playoffs unleashed. And I talked with ESPN's Louis Riddick, and he says that he believes that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a future NFL MVP. The article is on M Live if you do not believe me. So they have a game changer in him. And I don't know what that dynamic is going to look like between him and David Montgomery, but I know you're not going to be able to handicap him too long. Not saying they did it to start the season last year, but this season to start, they're going to have to probably unleash him a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let him loose.
Yeah. Well, you already know. You guys know how I feel about running backs in general. I don't know if I'd extend him, but hey, great player. He'll be fine. Kory, we appreciate you. You guys can check out Kory's work. Of course, he does Pistons, God bless you, and the Detroit Lions for M Live beat writer. Follow him on social media at Kory Woods. Kory, we'll talk to you soon, my man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Appreciate you, Kory.
All right, thanks.